Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm Katie and welcome to another Bookish adventure. Here we are again, another weekly reading vlog. I have somehow found myself finishing 2 books in a week. I'm very happy. So I finished City of Ashes earlier on in the week, so that was in my last weekly reading vlog. And then yesterday, I don't know, I have no concept of time anymore. I think yesterday I finished Flame in the Mist. I gave this book, I think it was 3.5 stars. I did really enjoy it and it was really good. One of my theories did pan out. I mentioned a couple in the last video, sort of options as to where I thought this book could go really, and I had a couple of thoughts about where it would go, and I voiced some and I didn't with some of the others. It was in that sense, I guess, predictable because there were only so many ways this book could have gone, but it didn't sort of distract from the story. It was still good because it was one of those things where there was only so many outcomes. The reason I gave it 3.5 stars and not 4, as much as I enjoyed it and I loved the world she created, I thought it was really good. I loved her storytelling. I just loved a lot of it. It was, as much as I loved the fact, thinking about it, it's 2 things. Okay, so I love the fact that we jumped straight in with this story, like it was straight to the plot. There was no like milling around. However, because of that fact, we literally jumped in at the point when Mariku was on her way to meet her betrothed and the convoy gets ambushed. There is no time to actually get to know her as who she is, her weird quirks, how she thinks, any sort of tensions with her family and how they want her to behave and stuff like that. So we got to know her when she's having to sort of lie and scheme her way into the Black Hand to sort of, you know, pretend she's a boy. So we get to know her in a really odd way, so it's quite kind of weird. So I felt like I couldn't really, not bond with her, but I just felt like I couldn't just quite, you know, get to know really who she was. I love the fact that there were multiple point of views, that I really enjoyed, but some were really quite random. So her brother popped up every so often. We had a couple of point of views from 2 different members of the Black Clan, the leader and his second in command, and then we had one from the Emperor, which was quite early and he kind of never came back, and then a lot further down the line we had one from the Emperor's consort and then one from his actual wife, the Empress. So we were sort of given tidbits of information, but it also made things a little bit confusing and a little bit vague in that respect, because you're still trying to piece together kind of what's happened and who may be on what side, and obviously you're trying to figure out yourself as to maybe who might have ordered it. Could it have been one of the Emperor's sons, maybe his wife or his consort? Was it the Black Clan, or like were they just hired to do it? Like all of that stuff. You know, could it just be another lord who just doesn't want that family to do well? And there is this kind of magical element to the book which I didn't really mention before, but it's not really explained. Like some people kind of have sort of abilities, and the forest itself is clearly this magical entity. There are like these weird vampire trees, and it's just talked about like it's totally normal, but it's not really explained. It's kind of left a bit confusing. Like there's this mention of this beast and this fox and like this shadowy creature, and it's just a little bit kind of vague. When it ended, although I'm really looking forward to reading the next one, in the same respect I'm a bit like I have a lot of questions as to sort of that sort of side of it, but I did really enjoy it and I am really looking forward to pick it up. I'm pretty sure I got the novellas on my Kindle a while ago. I think Amazon was doing a deal and they were like ridiculously cheap. I remember one of them is from the point of view of one of the Black Clan members. I can't remember who the second one's from. So before I finished that, on Tuesday night, I think, again, don't really know my times very well, I picked up a new book, and that is the Dorothy Must Die story. So this is volume 1 of 3 volumes by Danielle Page. So I sort of talked about this before as to why I had decided to commit myself to reading 3 novella bind-ups before the main story, and I kind of did my research on this because I'd ummed and ahed about it for quite a while as to whether or not I wanted to, but I actually looked into it. And Dorothy Must Die follows Amy Gum, and she is the second girl from Kansas who ends up going there, and the whole uprising and sort of taking down Dorothy, who's now kind of like a wicked witch. These novellas explain how that happened. So the first book which I'm reading currently is No Place Like Oz. I'm about halfway through that book. That one so far has been covering Dorothy's return to Oz and getting to know the sort of the time difference, what has happened within Oz while she's been away. Ozma is now on the throne, the Scarecrow is no longer king. It's covering stuff like that, and Glinda at the moment is missing, and she sent Dorothy some shoes on her birthday to bring her back. So I'm currently on page 130 of, well, this little back section here, that is the little couple of chapters, the actual book. So the actual book itself, like the actual story, the actual novellas is 377. So I'm sort of not including this because I don't plan to read that. So yeah, 377 pages. So right now, yeah, this is sort of covering what's going on in Oz, the changes. Dorothy's very suspicious of Ozma because everyone has just accepted her just as like she's the intended and rightful ruler. Everyone has just accepted that she has just come back. I am really appreciative of the fact that I have read, I think, at least half of the original stories. I've got a bind up of 5 books, and I think it's 5 or 4 bind ups, and I think it's like the original 13 or something books that he wrote, and then the next one in that series is the next one like after people took over. So I think I've read at least half of them now, and there are lots of characters in that, like Jillica and the Cecil horse. There are lots of characters in that are appearing, and these are characters that you would not know unless you'd read that far into the series. They do not appear until like book 6, 7, like quite far into it. And the same with like Ozma, she doesn't appear for quite a while, and there are certain characters connected to her. So I have appreciation for the fact that she's not just using characters that we know and know from the film Return to Oz. She's actually using characters from like way down the line. So right now the whole sort of premise is that Dorothy is desperate to get back to Oz, and she ends up taking Aunt Em and Henry with her. Obviously they just want to get back. I'm enjoying it, but I thought this was going to be a case of over so many of the novellas because there's like 9 of them, and I think most of them focus on Dorothy, and then they kind of go into separate characters. Like you've got one like the Wizard and the Scarecrow and all of them. I kind of thought that maybe the first few would sort of show how she's really going to change and possibly get corrupted by magic or whatever it is that turns her into the witch or whatever it is that she becomes. But already in Kansas, her personality has already changed already. Obviously people don't believe what happened to her, and her Aunt Em and Henry have said don't tell anyone. She told one other person, and she just is very stroppy, and I guess it's that, you know, she saved a whole land, a kingdom, and now she's back in Kansas and just things aren't the same. But yeah, her personality for me, I don't like it. It's just quite I thought that stroppy and weird and sort of angry behaviour would come a bit later once she started to be corrupted, so it's a bit weird. So right now she's quite suspicious of Ozma, and it's clear there's something possibly being hidden there, especially towards like Glinda's disappearance, but it's been like 10 years or something since Dorothy's been gone. So yeah, that was probably one of the main reasons I decided to go ahead and read these novellas. So right now I am just going to relax a bit. I'm probably going to watch a couple of episodes of Grand Tour. I don't really know if I want to like read this like this afternoon and maybe read a bit later because I'm just pretty wiped out from work. I realised because obviously I can't go out and do anything right now, I feel like I should be sharing more what we're doing at home. I guess it is just pretty much like binge watching TV, I won't lie, but I will check back in with you guys after the weekend.
Next level. Next level.
I'm currently on 286 of The Dorothy Must Die, volume 1 of stories. So I am now literally at the start of The Wizard Returns. I finished The Witch Must Burn today at lunch. So I know obviously I said before how I wasn't keen on how Dorothy's change took place, only because she just didn't seem like the Dorothy of old. I just feel like it would have been just better to have her come back quite sweet and still quite young and adorable, and then to really see like the magic corrupt her and change her, as opposed to she already had a bit of an attitude problem when she came. So the next book was The Witch Must Burn, and that took place from the point of view of Ozma's maid Jillica, and things happen at the end of No Place Like Oz, and she becomes Dorothy's head maid, and obviously we're noticing a lot more changes in what's happening. And then Glinda comes to the palace, and Glinda says that basically she wants Jillica to come back with her. So in this book we're sort of starting to see more of the Oz of what's to come, Glinda's plans, what she's up to. We also get a look at sort of the rebellious, like the order that I think is going to feature in the main series, and who wants to take down Dorothy. And I assume Glinda is going to be around still for that as well. I'm assuming that. So you were sort of seeing the first look of that order and who they are and what they kind of may or may not already know. They're aware that Jillica is quite special, and that is the reason why Glinda is after her. Glinda is trying to drain the magic out of Oz, or she's trying to tap into it. Dorothy has the Scarecrow working on some very, very dubious experiments and weird things. So I am actually looking forward to getting to the next volume of books. So the next volume will be the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. Honestly, can't remember. I am assuming that they're set once Dorothy has returned, whether or not they blindly and loyally are just happy to follow her, or whether they're going to see a change in her, but maybe magic is going to be what forces them into helping her. I am enjoying having this little insight into sort of the Oz that is coming and just everything that's happening and who's involved. I am really enjoying it. So this last book of this one, The Wizard Returns, the wizard had returned in the last book, but this one I believe is from his point of view, whereas he sort of just appeared very briefly in the second story. So I'm thinking about starting the actual series after second volume, and then maybe just picking up the third one when I just feel like having a standalone, because I just feel like the first two are covering really key characters, but we'll see how I feel. So right now I'm just going to take off my makeup. I'm absolutely knackered. I did another late today, so I hate being out of whack. It's just weird and my feet are killing me. So yeah, I'm going to take off my makeup and I'm going to do some more reading. I think I'm going to read my magazine because I'm a couple of issues behind with my Sci-Fi Now magazine, so I'm going to do that because I think I've actually realised I've been spending quite a lot of conscious time being like books, and my brain is currently not in mode for like plot. So I just kind of just want to just read nerdy related things instead. And once again I'm apologising because one of my neighbour's kids is having a massive tantrum. It's like they know when I want to film and go, you know what, now is the time. So I truly do apologise for how much you can hear. Oh, that was a big scream. So I'm finishing the week with another book finished. I am so happy. This never happens to me. This is like my third book this month. I'm so happy. So I finished this yesterday evening. I am just so stoked, and I picked up another book which I won't tell you about. However, I will tell you that this has been on my TBR for like 8 years or something ridiculous, but I will go into it properly for next week's reading vlog. Dorothy Must Die Volume 1. It's a solid read. I gave it 3 stars. It is okay. Like I said, I'm glad I have decided to go into it because each book is from a different point of view. In the end one, the wizard is he's literally on the balloon like when he's meant to be leaving, and a storm happens and the balloon ends up going down and he wakes up in the poppy field, but then obviously falls asleep. Basically he loses his memory and he's approached by someone who obviously knows who he is and the things that he has done. In this, the wizard is being portrayed as a lot more of a bad guy. He has done bad things. It hasn't been made clear who was ruling before him, so I don't know whether he has taken over from Ozma or someone who was holding like the throne for her. I don't really know. That's not been made clear, but basically he is more of a bad guy. He sort of came in, tricked them all into thinking he was a wizard, and then tricked them into building the Emerald City, and then just hauled up in there hiding from the witches in the hopes that they never found out that actually he was a fraud. So yeah, he loses his memory, but people know who he is and what he's done, and he is basically said by this person who finds him that he's going to be tested by Oz. They will test him on 3 things: courage, it's wisdom, courage, and I think love. He has no memories of who he is, why people don't like him. The person has changed his face so he won't be recognized, and it's basically that kind of, are you deep down that bad person, or was your experiences in life that made you like that? I'm really glad I read it because going into the actual books, obviously I've no idea if it's going to cover multiple point of views, so I don't know if we're going to get like Glinda's and Dorothy's and the wizards. So this is kind of really nice to really know where everyone kind of like what either their agenda or their game plan is for when we hit the main series, and kind of just that little bit more about them, especially if we don't get chapters from their point of view. You kind of know the setup of, oh, okay, right. I'm definitely intrigued in sort of how the wizard is going to come into play to it, and now knowing what I know about him and the choices he's made and where everything is now going to be left off with him, I am now really interested to see what his role is going to be, because he has, yeah, I don't want to give it away, but I am actually really curious to see how his like storyline is going to play out in the main books. So that's it. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Please stay safe and stay indoors, please. The longer you stay out, the longer this happens. And I nearly cried at work today. Still haven't properly cried yet. Not properly cried. The tears in the other vlog don't count. Yeah, I still haven't properly cried, but I came very close today at work. It's getting really hard, and just changes are being made, and I don't really feel safe at work anymore. I felt pretty safe up until now, and just, yeah, things are sort of saying, so please stay in and just make me feel safe. Because on the way home today, I saw this couple, just this awful couple, just sat on a wall drinking a can of beer, fag in the mouth, and it's like, you enjoy the sunshine whilst, you know, I go to work and risk my health. Anyway, rant over. So that is it, rant over. We are done. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, and as always, a comment below about anything. How are you finding this lockdown situation? Are you working? Are you trapped at home? How are you doing? If you're new, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and of course ding the bell to never miss a video. Have a good weekend, and I will see you on Monday.